Thank you. Hello, everyone. All right. Lasting transformation often begins with the recognition of the power of one. I've been thoroughly inspired throughout the sessions we've had so far, and I think we're really, really blessed to be in such an atmosphere. Now, I had one of such moments several years ago, one of those powerful moments several years ago while I was in primary school. Um, I was dubbed to be the dullard of the class at the time because I could barely give intelligent answers to the questions my teachers asked in class. And how I moved from class to class was because of the brilliance and the generosity of my seat partner at the time. His name was Philip. But one of these fateful days, it was a brand new session. I came to school, and Philip, my favorite person in the world, was nowhere to be found. And I asked, where on earth is Philip? And they told me, well, his parents have relocated and he's not going to be coming back to school. This was my ticket to the next class, and now he's gone missing. Now, with the way I was distraught and saddened by the information about his absence, people would have thought, wow, this guy is really going to miss this young man, Philip, like it was some brotherhood. But I wasn't going to miss him particularly. I was going to miss his contribution to my academic destiny. It was then I realized how foolish it was to rely on a third party for something that you are personally responsible for. Not long after that, I made a decision to take my academics more seriously, and eventually I finished as one of the top students at the time, common entrance exams and all that. But the more important thing here is this. Philip was both a hero and a villain to me. He was helping me get stopped. It was because of him I couldn't evolve beyond his presence. Now, because he had been so available, I'd learned to be helpless around him until he left. And this is sometimes how we feel, especially whenever life throws us a curveball and we think that the person that usually helps us in this situation is no longer around. We feel like there is no hope beyond the availability of that person. It's called learned helplessness. You know, when you see a chick that is trying to struggle through the membranes of limitation in that shell, trying to move into the outer world of reality, and you are compassionate, you're empathetic, you want to deliver the chick from this struggle. You see, whilst you're being compassionate and empathetic and delivering that chick from that limitation of the membrane, you are also limiting its lifetime outside of that shell, because all the muscular resilience and stamina that it needs to survive the real world, you have now prevented him from experiencing that and growing it internally. So sometimes external help and intervention are really sabotaging the future of your emergence. And that's why it's important to learn to be self-reliant in terms of your personal evolution on what you require to grow. I've observed also that humans tend to externalize their problems, especially the causes of their problems. And this typically influences the routes that they explore to change and alter their futures. For example, recently an African nation was eliminated from the World Cup qualifiers. And at the end of this interesting match, the head coach was asked, what happened during the course of this match? Why was your team eliminated from the World Cup qualifiers? How is it that you're going to miss World Cup for another 4 years and you were this close? And then he said, well, the opponent's goalkeeper was performing voodoo during the avoidable penalty shootout. I mean, millions of dollars in investment, in personnel, in recruitment, in logistics, in flight, in training. Later, this is all the head coach could muster as the reason why they could not feature in the most prestigious international football tournament, the World Cup. The voodoo of the opponent's goalkeeper at the avoidable penalty shootout. What is it about human beings that tries its best to avoid personal responsibility? What is it about us that we will rather blame something that is remotely connected to our reality than to feel the burden of guilt that, you know what, you are the one responsible for this? And the truth is this, Albert Einstein mentioned, he said, problems cannot be solved at the same level of thinking that produced them. It's impossible for you to solve a problem that you cannot superimpose with a superior thinking. And if you observe it, you would realize that problems tend not to change until someone takes it personal. And that was what Lee Kuan Yew did in 1965. August 9, 1965, Singapore had just been expelled from the Federation of Malaysia after about 2 years of internal crisis, political issues, and ethnic rivalries. And then at that time, they were defenseless. It was a defenseless cesspool of dysfunction. That was Singapore at the time. And without any real economic plan for the future. But in that moment, the foremost Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, decided to take very personal the realities of the Singaporean people and made certain decisions that then transformed the outcomes of their lives. This is Singapore, was Singapore 1965, a cesspool, like I said, of dysfunction. Everywhere you look out, the security, the economy, the culture, everything was a mess. But a man took a decision. Can we see the next slide of what Singapore looks like today in 2025? Look at that incredible view. That is Singapore in 2025. The difference between these two pictures, 1965 and 2025, if I ask you right now, what is the difference between these two pictures? You probably say time, 65 years, but not really. I mean, there are several other countries that have had the exact same 65 years between their independence and now, but we don't see this type of transformation in their realities. So the difference between those two pictures is not particularly time. A lot of countries have had the exact same time. The difference is the quality of decisions that were made by a leader, a thinker, and someone that was visionary in the person of Lee Kuan Yew. And if it is true for a nation with several complex factors and elements that need to interplay in a dynamic fashion, for a nation to be changed at that scale, then you can imagine how much more easy it will be for an individual to change. If a nation can change by just taking personal responsibility for their outcomes, how much easier would it be for an individual that has only one veto required to change? That means the only person standing in between you and your next level of growth and transformation is you. You are the only person standing in between those two dimensions of yourself, who you used to be and who you need to be. Now, I'll be sharing with you 3 profoundly important qualities about growth and transformation, which is what I'll be leaving you with this afternoon. And as I share these things, think about it and put yourself in the context where you need specific things to change about your life. And embrace these 3 profound qualities of growth and transformation. Implement it in your context, and I bet you will see some real growth in that area. The first thing about growth and transformation is this: growth is deliberate. No one can grow accidentally. I've never seen an accidental growth. You see, you can age without planning it, but you can never truly grow without being deliberate about it. It's impossible. Next year, you're going to be a year older, whether you like it or not. Tomorrow, you're going to be a day older. So by just evolving with time, you are getting older. You are aging. But aging is not growth. Growth is deliberate. Growth is intentional. Growth requires that you don't settle, because if you're not deliberate about improving yourself, eventually you will become comfortable with mediocrity. You will take your station as your destination. What stations are there for? Is to get yourself equipped and resourced, because the journey is still far. Nobody takes a bed and sleeps at the station. It is to get some resources and equipment, because there is a journey ahead of you. Don't play too early. Don't define yourself too soon. Be deliberate about your evolution. Take intentional steps in moving from where you are to where you need to be, because next year will come whether you like it or not. But the deliberate actions and decisions you've made between now and then is what will transform and translate your results, because you can age without growing. And in an ecosystem, a culture that is obsessed with blowing candles every year and sharing amazing pictures that give us an illusion of growth, we sometimes can be bypassed by the reality of our situation, that we have actually not grown. That you're seeing some beards and you're getting bigger does not really mean the quality of your thinking has improved. You've got to be deliberate about it. Number 2, growth is dry, growth is drab, growth is drudgery. I know we love the fun and exciting things of life. You like to get those dopamine injections whenever you check your social media and get excited about your favorite new celebrity and all of that. But you see, transformation actually happens in the dry, the drab, and the drudgery. Somewhere in the green room, I was speaking to one of the speakers, Dami, that's Ashiri, and he was talking to me about the level of rigor that he involves in the display or in the delivery of his work and his performance. He talked about how he had a 28-page comic script. That's incredible work ethic. The truth is this: What we celebrate him for today is a product of the dry, the drab, and the drudgery of spending the midnight oil and working those scripts, looking for better ways to present it, looking for the timing, checking out the entire presentation and the flow of thought. That is where greatness truly happens. About 12 years ago, my first book, I was trying to write my first book. So I went to meet my mentor. I said, I'd like to write a book. He said, you know what, give me a manuscript in 4 weeks. I said, that's ridiculous. It's impossible. How can I give you a manuscript in 4 weeks? Literally, I just read a book by Dr. Miles Monroe, Rediscovering the Kingdom, where in the book he said that it took him 20 years to put the book together. So this was me off the back of that book, and then I was coming to my mentor saying I want to write a book, and he said, I give you 4 weeks to write a book, knowing fully well that it took someone that I respect and admire a lot 20 years to write one. Now, my mentor did not budge. Thank God for mentors that don't budge. And then he said, give me a manuscript in 4 weeks. I don't know how you're going to get it done. So I went back and I decided I'm going to create a plan that is divorced from my emotions. I'm going to create a plan that is not going to depend on my feeling it to do it. So I said, you know what, every single day I'll wake up early and I will write for 5 straight hours. Whether I feel inspired or not, I'm going to have that plan. So every day I will wake up early and I'll start writing for 5 straight hours. Guess what, guys? In 3 weeks, I was done with the manuscript of my first book. Without feeling inspired every day, I wrote every day. Because I told myself that inspiration will meet me on the table of discipline. Many times we are waiting for us to feel inspired, to feel emotionally excited about what we're trying to do, instead of just making a decision to do what is required, because you will not do something that is worthwhile in your life if you keep waiting for your feelings to catch up and lead you through that journey. You need to make that decision, and you need to make it decisively. But it will be dry, it will be drab, it will be drudgery. But that is where greatness is born. It's not usually born in the great and exciting moments. It's born in the dry, the drab, and the drudgery of great routines. 3 skills that I think you need to also improve, especially talking about the dry, drab, and drudgery of greatness. Reading skills, thinking skills, and speaking skills. Interestingly, we do all these 3 things every single day. If you go on Twitter, you are reading, all right? If you're thinking about what to cook, you're thinking, all right? If you're speaking and gisting about how this event went later in the evening, you will be speaking. So we do these things, but how intentional are we in refining the quality of those things that we're doing? Because they are inter-reinforcing in nature. Your reading improves your thinking improves your reading as well as your speaking. And it's important that you learn to improve these areas of your life deliberately every day. Spend about 30 minutes every single day improving these 3 significant areas of your life. And I can guarantee that your life, especially your future version, will thank you today for that decision you're going to be making. Finally, growth is discriminatory. Growth is discriminatory. This is perhaps the most unfriendly feature of growth that a lot of people do not like. I noticed that a lot of things that people don't like to say in their vocabulary every day is no. People don't like to say no. People like to say yes to everything. But I realized that it is those that don't know the specific reason why they are here that find it difficult to say no. Growth is extremely discriminatory. It is you saying yes to one and no to all else. As a matter of fact, the biggest visionaries of the world are actually strategically blind. That is, true vision is strategic blindness. If you take out your iPhones right now or your phones and then you go on your AI and you ask a vague question, get the kind of output you're going to get. A vague feedback, a vague and an unhelpful output, because you were not specific enough about that which you were asking for. And that's why we have domains like prompt engineering today, to help you refine the quality of your questions. That means until you get specific with life to such a point where you zoom in into that which you are looking for, life does not yield to you what you have asked for, because you've not really asked anything. So what is he really compelled to give you? And so your growth must be discriminatory. You must be willing to say, no, I'm not available for that meeting, not because it's not a nice to go for, but because I have a schedule to write in that period. There are several things you will begin to say no to the moment you know what you are here for. The moment you have a plan, a definitive objective. Imagine somebody asked me, can we hang out for those 5 hours that I decided to be writing for every single day of those days back then? There's no way I would have been able to honor that invitation because I had a plan for that moment. And so the moment you realize that your no's are getting a lot, it's a sign that you are pursuing something significant that is supposed to yield into your life. Whether I like it or not, today, content creators have plans for your ears. They have plans for your eyes. They have plans for your data. They have plans for your time and your energy. But do you have time for those things? These are the most precious resources that you have in the world. But do you have time? Do you have a plan for those things? Because if you're not living your life by design, you are already wasting it by default. It's important that you catalog and chronicle the things that God has given you as resources, your time, your energy, your faculties, the ability to think and imagine the possibilities of the future, and begin to have a specific plan for those things. Because if you do not plan to use those things and you have those energies available, somebody will come and use it for you and deploy his own purposes through your agency. And if you're not living deliberately, then somebody's already living vicariously through your resources and your energy. It is important, especially as we round off this conversation, that you become very deliberate, you fall in love with the boredom of the dry, the drab, and the drudgery of great routines, and that you become discriminatory about your agenda to grow against all odds. Look at your neighbor to your left and say, grow. Look at your other neighbor and say, evolve. Look at your third neighbor and say, morph. When you put those words together, you find gem. So be a gem. God bless you. Thank you.